Welcome back to the Lil Will Learning Company. We're going to be looking at an example problem that's on the SAT math test. It involves finding area of a triangle, but also has square roots involved. And that's not really that difficult a problem. But the way I always phrase it with students is that if you've never seen the problem before and you've never attempted it, well, yeah, it can seem difficult. But we'll take a look at it real quickly here. Let's dive right in. So here's the problem that we're going to be looking at. It says a right triangle has sides of length 2 times square root of 2, 6 times the square root of 2, and square root of 80 units. What is the area of the triangle in square units? And the four choices we have here is A, 8 times the square root of 2 plus the square root of 80. B is 12. C is 24 times the square root of 80, and then D is 24. I'm going to start with what I know. And so what I do know for sure right now is that I have a right triangle. Now I'm going to draw it here. And actually, because I'm using Microsoft Paint here, I actually can draw a straight line. I always had a joke with my students that whenever I drew anything on the board, I said, get ready for the world's straightest line. It was never really that good. It was, in fact, usually terrible. But shh, just between us. Don't tell anybody else. All right, so there's one straight line. In fact, probably the straightest line I've ever drawn in my life. But shh, don't tell anybody. It was assisted by Microsoft Paint. Okay. All right, here's the next one. All right, and then let's just tighten up a little bit. Whoa, there we go. This is amazing. I'm a way better drawer now because of these tools. And then the last part there, the hypotenuse, and we'll just leave that the way it is. So now we have our right triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and put this little symbol here right there so that we know, in fact, it is a right triangle. Now, that part, done. But then we have the three lengths, the three sides. 2 times the square root of 2, 6 times the square root of 2, and square root of 80 units. Now, when you have a right triangle like this, one side's going to be like the shortest in length, one side will be kind of the second longest in length, and then the hypotenuse here, which is always the longest side. Now, between 2 times the square root of 2, 6 times the square root of 2, and square root of 80, I got to figure out which one of those is the hypotenuse, which one's the longest. Now, I can just tell it's going to be the square root of 80, not because it's the biggest number necessarily, but what I know is this. I know the square root of 81, and I know the square root of, hold on one second, let me fix that real quickly here. Sorry. I know the square root of 81, and I know the square root of 64. Square root of 81 is 9. Square root of 64 is 8. And so I know that this length here is a number somewhere between 8 and 9, which is more than both 2 times square root of 2 and 6 times the square root of 2. So this side here is going to have to be the square root of 80. And I can kind of just tell from these other ones here, this one must be 2 times the square root of 2, and this bottom one here must be 6 times the square root of 2. Now, in order to find the area of the triangle, that formula is pretty easy. It's area of a triangle is basically half times base times height. I always explained it as area is base times height divided by 2. Let me just make that a little bit prettier because that's pretty ugly. There we go. Base times height divided by 2. Okay. So really with that, 6 times the square root of 2, that would be the base. 2 times the square root of 2, that would be the height. And then we're just going to divide that by 2 or use the first formula. I'm going to use the first formula here because in this case, I actually like the way it looks better. It'll be and times 2, square root of 2. There we go. So this is all being kind of multiplied out here. So I'm going to actually start with this. 6 times 2, that's going to give me 12. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 will give me square root of 4. And that'll be times by half. Half times the 12 will give me 6 times square root of 4. And then the square root of 4 is going to equal 2. So this is really just going to be 6 times 2, and that's just going to give me 12. So therefore, the area of this would have to be 12. And so just by kind of plugging everything in, and especially if you know the formula for how to find the area of a triangle, and just it is a bit of logic. You have to kind of realize, like, okay, well, but the three lengths I'm given, the longest one is the hypotenuse. So then that one goes there, and then there I kind of figure, well, that's the shortest one. That's the next longest one. So that's going to be the height in this case, the length in this case, or however you kind of drew your right triangle. But again, once you plug these in, multiply them out, we got 12 times the square root of 4. Then I took the half and multiplied it by the 12. That gave me 6 times the square root of 4. And I know that the square root of 4 is 2, so 6 times 2 just gives us 12. Hence, that's the answer to this one right here. Hey, so hopefully that helped you. And like I said, it's not too bad a problem. I think what throws a lot of students kind of off the track of that is one of two things. Because there's square roots in it, if you're not really comfortable with those and you're not really sure what's going on, like you notice how I kept saying it's 2 times the square root of 2, you almost want to think of it like it's a variable. So instead of saying 2x, where it's 2 times the unknown variable, well, in this case, it's a square root. It's the square root of 2. So just think of it as like 2 times the square root of 2. And some people or some students will basically say, well, I don't know what the square root of 2 is, or I need my calculator for that. It adds one more step. And I get it. When you're kind of thinking these things through in a logical kind of progression or a step-by-step checklist, just the fact that you added one more step into it, like, oh, that threw me off. I can actually totally understand that. But don't make the square roots that complicated for yourself. Sometimes you don't even need to kind of figure out what the number is. You can kind of leave it as it is, almost like a variable. And then the other part that might throw students off is if you don't know how to find the area of a triangle, which hopefully your 6th grade teacher has been teaching you that, maybe even your 5th grade teacher is teaching you that, and then from that point forward, as long as you know like base times height divided by 2, and especially since it was a right triangle, it makes it a little bit easier to assign those lengths that the problem gave you into those particular spots of the triangle, and then you can kind of figure out from there how to go about and solve it. Well, once again, hopefully this was helpful, and subscribe, and check out the services we offer at the Lil Will Learning Company, from mentoring to personalized curriculum and to educational materials. Hope to see you soon. Take care.